Are we on? I think we're back. I think we're back. Hi guys, hi guys, hi guys. Hello. Hi everyone, we're back. We're back, we're back. Hi everyone. We're in a different house right now because me and John are in the process of closing on our property in Florida, so we're here with family. And so the Wi-Fi here, as you can see, this is not my room. This is not my normal location. So the Wi-Fi is a little not the best. It's not the best. So I think I'm connected to my phone now, so we should be good. Should be good. Should be good. So what ended up happening afterwards was I feel like I could just genuinely focus on my life without my brain constantly being in the way. Because that was what was going on for a long time. My brain was always getting in the way of me living in the end. And manifesting gets to be this light, fun thing. It shouldn't be an additive on top of you already feeling stressed out. But if that's already something you've experienced previously, if long before you jumped into the world of calling in your relationship, no matter what that is, and you already experienced a infiltration of negative thoughts or intrusive thoughts, well, you're just going to experience your journey of manifestation through that lens. It's just going to be another version of what you already experienced. So it's like, why don't you put the idea of manifesting this relationship to the side and just learn how to get out of your own way? What if really being masterful at manifesting relationships had nothing to do with how much you're focusing on him coming into your life, how much you're focusing on what your limiting beliefs are, how much you're focusing on what frequency or vibration or energetics you're operating in? What if that was never meant to be the focus? What if it actually got to feel like a more fun, light, enjoyable experience? Right? The things that I've called into my life, not 100% of them, but I would say a good 90%, they all landed when I'm just in this place of overflow and fun and enjoying, and my brain is not getting in my own way. Last week, me and John were just getting to Philadelphia from Florida, and there was a lot. Like, moving is, if you guys have moved, if you have ever moved, type it in the chat, because I know moving is like a whole fucking activity. Like, it takes everything out of you. So we were getting here, and I was like, I really hate to come back here because it kind of feels like I'm moving backwards, right? I put in a lot of work and built a business and built my life to be able to move to Florida, right? And so we're back here for the month until we move back to our home, because we're purchasing a property. And there was a lot of thoughts in my mind, like, I feel like I'm moving backwards. Is this like I have these weird feelings in my body, and I was trying to get rid of them, and I was like, wait a minute. Wait a motherfucking minute. This is exactly what we don't want to be diving into. I've done this work. I know how to handle this, and I was able to snap out of it so quickly, and within a few hours, some insane, amazing things started popping off my business and just in my life in general. Is there a coincidence to that? No. There's not. Most people are just in their own way, you guys. Most people are just in their own way mentally. And this isn't to be like fear-mongering, but people do genuinely get to the end of their life and they look back and they're like, well, I wasn't in the relationships I wanted to be in, and I didn't necessarily have the business, and I didn't have these things. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at it. You were in your own way. How much of the time? How much of the time were the negative and intrusive thoughts in your own way? And this isn't to make you afraid of those thoughts, right? This whole process, the whole journey of going through the Intrusive Thought Queen program is to remove the fear of having these negative thoughts, is to remove the fear of having these intrusive thoughts, is to not feel like you have to keep figuring them out, is to not feel like you have to keep figuring out manifestation and figuring out if you're doing it right and figuring out if you're attracting this attachment style or he has that attachment style or it's this or this or that. Right? That's not how you want to be on this journey. Is it ever going to come up? Of course. Is it ever going to come up? Of course. But your job is to not figure it out. But most of us are trained to. Most of us are trained to keep figuring shit out all the time. Keep problem solving. Keep running through it in your mind. Because that's what you were trained to do. That's what you were trained to do. So it's a little bit of a learning curve to go backwards on that. And when you try to go backwards on it, when you try to mental diet and override those negative thoughts with positive, it can seem like it's feeling better and you're doing better and things are moving and maybe your mind is having better thoughts for a little bit. And then it's like something always kicks in. It's like somebody else starts to take over and kick in and override that. Why? Because you're designed, not even just designed, you're programmed to keep figuring shit out. We've been set up this way. Most of us have not trained ourselves to get out of our own head. Most of us have not trained ourselves to be able to stretch our nervous system's capacity for not needing to figure shit out all the time. And so you end up always feeling this sense of urgency all over the place. I gotta get there. I gotta get the relationship. If I don't, he's gonna find somebody else. If I don't, I'm gonna get to X, Y, and Z amount of time or years old. I'm not gonna be able to have kids in a healthy way. And everybody's gonna look at me and be like, oh my God, why don't you have a husband? And so you have this constant pressure and this constant urgency. Well, what would it be like if that urgency was just gone? What if you were able to live your life in this way where you were able to hold a experience for what you wanted to experience in your relationship, whether that's with a soulmate or somebody specific, and you didn't have to keep trying to figure it out mentally. You've mastered how to get the fuck out of your own way. How would that feel? How would that feel? I have been doing this work long enough to realize that the more I get out of my own way mentally, and the more my body gets out of my own way, the easier my life gets, the easier my relationships get, the easier my business gets, the easier it is for me to get up here and speak about these things because I'm not overthinking. Imagine if I was sitting here and I was just overthinking every single word that I said. Well, you guys would not want to sit here and listen to me, would you? Because I'd be like, well, maybe this, and well, maybe that, and well, maybe this, and well, maybe that. What would it be like to be so sure of yourself all the time? Most of the time. I never want to throw 100% projections at you because we are humans. And I think a lot of people set up these unrealistic expectations for just life in general. And that you're never going to have another negative thought or, you're never going to doubt ever again. That's not the case. But there is a difference between somebody who spends all their time in negative and intrusive thoughts and figuring them out and going to Claude and going to ChatGPT and running through Reddit forums and this and that and commenting on this TikTok and watching this TikTok and watching this YouTube video, always on the hunt for more information. And the person who has done the practice of rate and release enough where they can have those thoughts pop in without jumping into the behaviors that just make them worse. Right? And that's the rate and release method. So with the rate and release method, what happens is you have 3 levels. And those levels consist of certain intrusive thoughts and negative thoughts around manifesting relationship, love in general, worrying it's not going to happen, thinking manifestation is a scam, thinking that he has this attachment style and you better figure it out, thinking that you're going to get used, right? The questions can go on, and your brain will try and convince you that your thoughts are unique, right? And some thoughts are going to feel more fearful in your body than other ones, right? So that's why we have 3 levels, and you want to do this in a very strategic way. So in Intrusive Thought Queen, I have it all laid out for you to make sure you're doing this in a strategic way, because if you just go right to the worst fears and thoughts happening in your mind and body, you're just going to create chaos in your nervous system, and that's not what we want. We want to lean into these thoughts. We want to lean into these fears in the body in a very specific way that feels like a leveled process. It's like 1 through 10, 1 through 10. We start around the 1, 2, 3 range and we move to the 8, 9, 10 range. And over time, when you continue to engage in the rate and release method, the fear around having these intrusive thoughts about manifesting your relationship and the negative thoughts goes away. Or they might, this is how I like to describe it to my clients, you might notice them in the back of your mind, but they're not causing chaos in your body anymore. And when your body is not automatically responding to those thoughts with chaos, you're able to get out of your own way. And I was on live a little bit ago, but my Wi-Fi dropped out. But I was almost in tears talking about this work because I felt like I went so long in trying to manifest my relationship and nobody telling me this. Everybody was so focused on this visualization and this affirmation and living in the end this way and this thought process and this 3-3-3 technique. Nobody taught me how to get out of my own fucking way in an actionable way. They just taught me how to think more things. They just taught me how to think, well, just keep detaching. Just keep thinking thoughts of detachment. That wasn't working because this is an in-body thing. Your body manifests, not your mind. Your body, your unconscious mind, which lives in the body, manifests, not the conscious mind. Right? So when you're trying to figure this stuff out with more logical thinking, it's not working because this is not a logical process. It's not a logical process. So we have to take the unconscious mind and create safety in our body again. Create a relationship with our mind where we're not afraid of it all the time, where we're not fighting it to have the most perfect thoughts. Interestingly enough, when you master this, your mind naturally starts moving in a positive direction. Here's something really cool that started to happen too. So maybe a month before me and my fiancé were officially together, I had done this work for several months because I'll be honest with you guys, this is not going to change overnight. You have to commit to yourself to this. You have to commit to yourself during this process. And I was committed to myself because even if I didn't manifest this relationship, I was unwilling to live a life where I was at war with my mind all the time. I was unwilling to do that. So I made that clearing the intrusive negativity in my mind the focus, instead of constantly focusing on how do I get this relationship? What's his attachment style? What do I need to address? Which limiting belief this? Which limiting belief that? Right? Not that that stuff's never important, but I stopped making that the forefront of my focus. And I focused on clearing the fears around the intrusive and negative thoughts that were taking up all of my energy instead. So when I was able to get out of my own way, here's something really cool that started to happen. I started to get natural visualizations to my brain. How to release those fears, go through the rate and release method in Intrusive Thought Queen. Let me post a link in here for you guys so it's easy to grab. I ended up getting these natural thoughts to my brain, these natural visuals to my brain of John walking into Starbucks, right, with a ring in a box, and him showing this ring to his best friend. This was not a visualization I was forcing myself to have. This was not a visualization I learned in some Neville Goddard book. This wasn't something I was curating in my brain. It's because all the negative shit got out of my way. I got out of my own way with all of the intrusiveness and running down the rabbit holes. And I was able to feel the feelings of love and calm and peace and stability again. And literally, again, I'm getting chills talking about this because this is like so deep to me. This is so deep to me. When I got all the fucking garbage out of my brain, not by fighting it, by going through the rate and release method, all these natural feelings of love and joy were able to take over my body. And that is the most incredible feeling coming from somebody who has dealt with intrusive thoughts their whole life. Obsessive thoughts my whole life. And so I would go to sleep at night and I would be able to enjoy these natural visualizations, these natural images that would come to my head. How many of you guys have tried to visualize your relationships in the way that you want to experience them, and you feel like you have to keep forcing yourself to go back to the image because you can't even focus on it? Or you feel like you can't even connect to the image because your thoughts are overriding those images with other negative thoughts? How fucking annoying is that? How fucking annoying is that? So then you're like, well, let me visualize harder and let me get better at visualizing and let me do this and let me do that. So fucking annoying. And it makes sense why people would tell you to do that. It's not that visualizing doesn't work, but for a lot of people, it doesn't because they can't get their own mind out of their own way. Yeah, so you just keep feeling you're pushing and you're forcing. It feels like this forced process. I don't even want to go to sleep and visualize anymore because I'm just going to feel like I'm forcing myself, and that's not fucking fun. I don't want to force myself into thinking these thoughts. I don't want to force myself into visualizing these things because it doesn't even feel good in my body. The thing that people don't tell you about visualizing is when you're already in body, calm, relaxed, in love, your mind is out of your own way, these visualizations naturally come to you. Has anyone ever told you that before? Has anyone ever told you that when you're visualizing and it genuinely works and you see the results of that, it's because it's natural. It's because it's a natural byproduct of the clear, stable safety that you've already created in your body. It's not something that's forced. It's the same with thinking positive thoughts. You can't force your mind to think positively, no matter how hard you try. Somebody in the comments, please let me know if you have forced yourself to think positively and it has stuck. Let me know. I need help training my mind to find safety. You need to be an intrusive thought queen. Like, when I tell you that program is going to change your life. Once you started your own rate and release, when did it start to be natural for you? It started to feel natural. Like those visualizations and those feelings of love started to come to me naturally within, I would say, around 3 months. And like I said, I'm very honest with the process. I'll never sit here and tell you that it's going to happen in a day or 2 days. In a week, you might see some progress, but realistically, what ends up happening at first is our body's going to try to fight us a little bit because we're overriding the ego, and the ego that's wanting to kick in. So it's okay if it's going to take a little bit of commitment on your end. Wouldn't you rather, like, let's just put the relationship to the side for a minute. Let's just put the relationship to the side for a minute. Wouldn't you just love to have a mind that wasn't fighting you all the time? Wouldn't you just love to feel like you can get out of your own way and you weren't at war with yourself all the time? Wouldn't you love that? And so, like I was saying a little bit ago, when I made that my focus of getting out of my own way, mentally, right, everything started to come to me naturally. I don't know where that visualization of John going to Starbucks and showing his best friend the ring was. I don't know where the fuck that came from, but it just naturally came to me. And you guys will love this story. I was actually staying over his house when that visualization came to me, and I was falling asleep, and it was like popping into my head, and I started laughing and smiling. And John looks at me and he's like, "What are you laughing about? What are you smiling about?" And I'm like, Nothing. I'm just chilling. But that's what was going on. I was getting these natural, fun, enjoyable thoughts in my mind. And on top of it, I was taking natural behaviors. Do you guys ever hear that saying of like, I don't really use a lot of manifestation spiritual lingo because like I'm just more of a little bit of a logical girly. And I try to understand these things in a way that makes sense for me. So I try and remove a lot of the spiritual woo-woo language from it because it's not all spiritual. It's not. But you guys ever hear the phrase of like taking aligned action? How many of you guys have thought about taking aligned actions or heard that phrase before? You have to take aligned actions. And so for a while, taking aligned actions for me felt like something, once again, I needed to figure out. Figure out, how do I take aligned actions? What state do I need to be in to take aligned actions? Which technique and process do I need to do as soon as I wake up in the morning to make sure I'm taking aligned actions, right? Another thing to freaking figure out. Another thing. It's like, how many things could I possibly be figuring out? I am going to drive myself nuts. I'm going to drive myself nuts trying to figure all this shit out. And this coach said this, and this coach said that, and that. I can't put them all together because they're both saying two opposite things, and now I'm just confused. Right? That was wasting so much of my energy. So much of it. So when I use this process, we're talking about the rate and release method, which is what I teach inside Intrusive Thought Queen to remove the fear out of your body around the intrusive thoughts and the negative thoughts so you can get out of your fucking own way. Let's get the fuck out of our own way in 2026. I want everybody to be kissing their man at New Year's this year. This is what I want for all of you, okay? Anyways, when I was able to focus on getting out of my own way, the aligned actions, I forever try to figure out how to take aligned actions. You can't figure out how to take aligned actions because it's not conscious. It is something you naturally do. It's a natural. So I couldn't figure it out. The more I tried to figure it out, the less aligned actions I was fucking taking. And so not only was I getting natural visualizations to my mind, when I got out of my own way and stopped having so much focus on figuring out the negative and intrusive thoughts all the time, I started finally knowing what a fucking aligned action was because I was able to take them without knowing. And I wouldn't know until the end of the experience, until I was done taking that behavior. Right? But I couldn't do that when I was constantly in my own way. I couldn't do that when I was figuring it out. How many of you guys have went through college? You can even think back to your high school days. And you're sitting there at a test. You're about to take the test, or you're in the middle of taking the test, and you're doing the math problem, and you're overthinking it. You start getting 3 different numbers, even though you swore the first time you did this math problem you did it correctly. And now you're not even fucking sure, so you just fill in letter C because that sounds right. C feels right. Filling in the C bubble feels right. And you get done the test, and you're like, oh my God, I fucking knew the answer to that, and I couldn't figure it out in that moment. Because you were so... Is this live or recording? This is live. Zara, hi. You were so in the moment of trying to figure it out that you couldn't figure anything out. Isn't that crazy how that works? Isn't it crazy that the more you try to figure things out, the more things you have to figure out? But how many of you would say that your body right now does not know how to stop figuring things out? And what if I told you that the minute you master how to stop figuring things out is the minute that you'll know exactly what an aligned action is. You'll know exactly what it's like to see visualizations work for you because they naturally come to your mind. You'll know exactly what it's like to have positive thoughts because they'll naturally come to your mind. It's not going to be this forced practice anymore. Forcing yourself has not created you sustainable results, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. You wouldn't be here watching this live right now. All of you have done so much work. All of you have done everything you needed to do. You've been told to do to manifest a relationship because you're all hardworking. You all refuse to get to the end of your life and not have the things that you want. Or not have the things that, or you want to get to the end of your life and have those things. You don't want to be on your deathbed and be like, damn, wish I got that. You refuse. You all refuse. Some of you have put years into this work. But what's the common denominator? What's the common denominator? You're still trying to figure it out. You're still trying to figure it out. There's still a layer of overconsumption that goes on to make sure you just didn't miss anything, to make sure you're just getting your techniques right, to provide you a little bit of reassurance that manifesting your relationship is real, to shut up the little voice in your mind that keeps telling you it's a scam. Right? So what if that was never really what you were supposed to be doing? What if trying to make sure that you had the right affirmation was never what you were supposed to be doing? What if making sure that your visualizations were correct and doing them every night before you go to bed was not what you were ever supposed to be doing? What if those things, all this time, have been a natural byproduct of you getting out of your own way mentally? What if you dissolving the in-body fears when you have these intrusive negative thoughts come up in your mind that you need to figure out? How many of you guys...
teams gathered in London, the nation got behind the 3 Lions as never before.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. How many of you guys are maybe in a relationship dynamic right now? Maybe you guys aren't together. Maybe you're in a situationship. Maybe you're in a relationship, but it's not going the way you want. You want to receive more. Maybe you want to receive more gifts. Maybe you want your man to lead you more, right? Maybe you're single. Maybe you've been single for a long time and you just want to land your soulmate. How many of you guys, how much time, let's do it this way. How much time do you spend asking ChatGPT or Claude, or what's the other one? Google Gemini, I think somebody told me before. How much time do you spend asking AI questions about your relationship manifesting? And how many of you do it daily? How many of you do it daily? You ask it to pull tarot. How many of you... I stopped asking the AI apps after last live when you went over self-sovereignty. Yes. How many of you would like to stop feeling like you have to keep asking questions to AI about manifesting a relationship? And also, how many of you just get even more confused the more you ask it, because it just validates everything you do? Isn't that weird? It's like last week I said this, but this week I said that. And I'm pretty sure that if I was putting a body in a bag and asking it where to hide it, it would tell me. Because that's what ChatGPT is literally set up for. And did you know that the more that you try to figure out these negative and intrusive thoughts and try to get manifestation right, the more you're getting manifestation wrong? People always ask me, how do I not mess up my manifestation? Stop asking me that question. Stop asking me that question. Stop asking whatever you named your ChatGPT that question. Oh my God, it's so loud out here. So what is it actually going to feel like when negative and intrusive thoughts aren't constantly overriding your system? What would happen if negative and intrusive thoughts weren't something you were so soaked into every single day that you weren't trying to figure out how to have the right technique? You weren't obsessing over his attachment style, whether he was the right or wrong partner for you, right? What if you weren't over consuming content on TikTok anymore to try and figure out what you needed to do right, how to get it right? Or you saw another coach that wasn't me, right? And they said something totally different, and you're like, oh, that's a new perspective. Maybe I'll try that. And you're just bouncing around. What if that could all be done? And what if that was really the work all this time? What if that was really the work all this time? Because that was the work for me all this time. I was so convinced. That it would be another affirmation, that I just had to get the right affirmation, and when I got it, then I would get the relationship. Right? That if I just got the right technique, or if I just lived in the end a little bit more time, and if I had the right visualization, I'd finally get it. And I was always in this journey of, when I finally get it, I'll get this, I'll do this, and then I'll get it. I'll do this, and then I'll get it. I'll do this, and I get it. Oh, this intrusive thought, let me try and figure it out. Why am I having this thought? What limiting belief is creating this thought? On and on and on again. When really the work was to train my body to trust again. When really the work was to train my body to feel safety again. When really the work was to allow myself to feel love and joy and safety all on my own. It didn't rely on my fiancé. It didn't rely on the newest TikTok video that my favorite coach just posted. Those things are great. But there's a line, and everybody crosses it. Everybody crosses it. Because no one teaches you how to build that stability internally. Nobody teaches you how to take those negative and intrusive thoughts and dissolve the fear that's connected to them. This is exactly what Intrusive Thought Queen is, you guys. Intrusive Thought Queen is one of my signature programs. It's part of my unconscious communication process. And inside Intrusive Thought Queen, I go very, very deep into why these negative and intrusive thoughts are showing up in your mind. And then instead of giving you more information like everybody else is going to, which doesn't make any sense because this stuff is not logical, I give you the exact strategic way that you are now going to remove these negative intrusive thoughts and fears from your body. And I call that the rate and release method. And in the rate and release method, you're going to go through a specific titrated, leveled approach to these fears. You're going to learn how to understand why these certain fears are showing up for you and the way they're showing up and at what levels they're showing up. You're going to remove the obsession over trying to figure them out. You're going to remove the urgency behind trying to figure them out. You're going to remove the urgency behind trying to run back to TikTok and run back to YouTube and run to ChatGPT and run to Claude to figure them out. You're going to remove all that urgency for good, because I'm going to show you how to stretch your capacity to not do that anymore. And if you are somebody, let me say this. If you are somebody that needs a result overnight, never buy a program from me. Never buy a program from me, because I'm not here to sell you a fucking unrealistic dream. I'm not. I'm going to tell you right here, right now, that this work will need your commitment. I mean, just think about it. Before you even got into manifestation, you were running negative thoughts and intrusive thoughts and always trying to figure shit out long before you got into this work. So it makes sense if it doesn't change overnight. It makes sense if it doesn't change overnight. So commit yourself to that. If you're going to do Intrusive Thought Queen and you genuinely want to shut your mind the fuck up and make it feel like you just took an Adderall without the drugs, make it feel like you just got back from a 7-day retreat without taking the flight, commit to that work. Commit to it. Commit to it before joining the program so that you can actually jump in every single day and get the right results. And like I was just saying earlier, this ended up being what allowed me to naturally have visualizations, naturally have better thoughts, naturally allow myself to take aligned actions. I finally got what all these manifesting gurus were talking about with visualizing and affirming and what was the other thing I said? Freaking living in the end, aligned actions. I finally got what they meant, but I didn't get what they meant until I got this shit out of my own way. Nobody taught me how to do that. So Intrusive Thought Queen is 50% off right now. It's 50% off. You can also add on, when you go to join Intrusive Thought Queen, you can add on this little Q&A session where you'll be able to jump in with me personally and ask your very specific exact questions, and I will be coaching you on them regarding your negative and intrusive thoughts around your relationship. And you can jump in and get that. All right? All you got to do, I'll put the link in here. There's the link for Intrusive Thought Queen. You can also just go to the link in my bio and you'll see it's the first one in there. It says Intrusive Thought Queen is open now. It is 50% off, you guys. It will not stay 50% off. I want everybody in this program. You need to shut your mind the fuck off. I want you all to get out of your own way. I want you all to get out of your own way. Not just so that you can manifest a relationship. That's going to happen, okay? That's going to be a natural byproduct of this. But so that you don't have to spend every single day in worry, in figuring out, in always looking for the next best thing to get somewhere. I want you to know what it feels like to have that in-body sovereignty. I want you to know what it feels like to feel calm, safe, and stable in your body. I want you to know what it feels like to be able to have thoughts come through your mind that maybe are negative and intrusive, and you don't have a reaction and your identity doesn't snatch onto them and make them yours anymore. I want you to know what that peace feels like. I want you to know what that peace feels like. Because when you're living inside of that peace, you're going to naturally have the visualizations come to you. Like I was just saying a little bit ago. After committing myself to this work, I started having the natural visualization of my now fiance walking into Starbucks and opening up a ring box and showing his best friend the ring. And you want to know the craziest part, which I didn't even say earlier? That best friend that I saw him showing the ring to was one of the biggest reasons why John made the commitment. I didn't even know this was going on behind the scenes, but that best friend was calling him all the time and being like, man, you better commit. You better step up or she's going to find somebody else. I had no idea that shit was going on. That all started happening when I got out of my own way. Is that a coincidence? No, of course it's not. Okay. So I started getting the natural visualizations. I started taking the natural aligned actions when I was able to get out of my own way. Here's what some of those natural aligned actions looked like before I even knew they were aligned actions, okay? I was able to start saying no to some of the times that John wanted to hang out together. I was never able to do that before because I was worried that if I didn't say yes to every hangout or every date, I was going to lose him. I stopped fearing losing him. How many of you are worried about losing him, about having to find somebody else? I was able to stop doing that and actually say no sometimes because I wanted to. That was fucking awesome. I naturally would just say things that made him feel even more comfortable being around me, naturally. It was like my emotional wall started coming down because I wasn't micromanaging my brain anymore. You know how much energy you're wasting micromanaging your brain? So much. Who would you be if you weren't doing that anymore? Who would you be if you didn't have to mask all the time because you were trying to make sure your brain was correct, trying to make sure your energy was correct? Who would you be? Oh my God, you're so much more, I'm sorry guys, but you're way more enjoyable to be around when you're not micromanaging yourself anymore. You want to know how to be a fucking magnet to the shit that you want in your life? Shut down the relationship you have with your negative and intrusive thoughts. I swear to God. I was more magnetic to be around naturally, so I would say things that were more fun and goofy and more me. I was more myself by getting out of my own way with these thoughts. And when I'm more natural and goofy and more into being who I genuinely am, do you know what that does to everybody around you and the men in your life and the relationships in your life and even your family and friends? They feel like they're more comfortable to be around you. They feel like they can be themselves around you. And if you're in a relationship with a man, of course you want him to feel that way around you. So one of the coolest things was one day I came over John's house, right? This was maybe a week or so, week to 2 weeks before we were like together. And it seemed like his entire emotional walls, all of them, any bit of him that seemed a little bit like was gone. Why? That was a natural reflection, a natural mirror to the fact that I wasn't hanging over my own shoulder like this anymore, that I wasn't hanging inside my brain all the time, figuring shit out. Because that shit will literally kill your energy. That shit will kill your magnetism. It really will. You all know it. You're all living that right now. Have you ever met somebody that just gets everything they want? The relationships, the business success, the career success, all of it. The common denominator with all those people, it's not just hard work. A lot of times it's not even that hard of work. It's that they're not getting in their own way. They're not getting in their own way. So stop trying to figure out how to manifest the man. Stop trying to figure out how to manifest the relationship. Stop trying to list out your limiting beliefs. Stop taking your notes in your phone every day and writing down the exact specifics of the relationship you want to be in and by what time you want to be in it. And focus on stretching your nervous system's capacity. Literally imagine it stretching like this. Stretching it for not getting in its own way with the negative and intrusive thoughts. Stop getting in its own way. This is exactly what I teach you how to do in a very strategic way. This needs to be done strategically, you guys, or you will throw your nervous system for a loop, okay? Do not try and just go and do this by yourself. It is likely if you try and do this by yourself, your nervous system will probably spike and you're probably going to feel like you're not sure what to do about it. Do the rate and release method in Intrusive Thought Queen so that you can lean into these things in a leveled way where we can stretch your nervous system a little bit at a time instead of taking it from here to here. We want to like stretch it a little bit of it at a time so that we're not creating or making this worse. Okay? Okay. I will leave the Intrusive Thought Queen link right here. It is 50% off for a limited time, or you can just jump into my bio and grab it. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Wednesday, and I